Greetings, dear listeners. I'm glad to welcome you back to my channel. Today, I've gathered some chilling horror stories about Airbnb. Enjoy the show.
I almost didn't book the place. It was a townhouse in Baltimore, way too cheap for the area. But the photos looked clean, and I was on a tight budget for a work trip. The host, Martin, messaged me the lockbox code. The key was inside. No meet and greet. The first thing I noticed when I got inside was the smell. It was sweet, almost like rotten fruit. But the place was spotless. The second thing I noticed was the carbon monoxide detector. It was on the floor in the living room, under the coffee table. The plastic cover was off. The batteries were gone. I thought that was weird, but I figured maybe the last guest messed with it. I had a long drive, so I just wanted to sleep. I crashed on the couch because the bedroom upstairs felt stuffy. I woke up in the middle of the night with a pounding headache. My mouth was dry. I felt sick to my stomach. I sat up and the room spun. I thought it was food poisoning. I stumbled to the kitchen for water. That's when I saw the fireplace. It was a gas fireplace. The little glass doors were closed, but I could hear it, a soft, steady hiss. I walked over. I put my hand near the seam of the doors. I felt a draft of air coming out. Not warm air, just air. I tried to find a control knob. There wasn't one. The hissing was coming from inside the sealed unit. My foggy brain finally put it together. The missing detector, the sweet smell, the hissing gas fireplace that wouldn't turn off. I started panicking. I ran to the front door and threw it open, gulping the cold night air. I went back in, held my breath, and threw open every window I could find. The hissing was the only sound in the house. I grabbed my phone and called 911 from the sidewalk. The fire department came. They had meters. One of the firefighters told me the levels in the living room were dangerously elevated. They shut off the gas at the main. After they left, I sat in my car. I texted Martin, the host. The gas fireplace is leaking carbon monoxide. The detector had no batteries. I called the fire department. He wrote back immediately, "Please do not make a fuss. This is a simple maintenance issue. I will send a repairman. A partial refund can be arranged." I didn't answer. I was looking at the Airbnb reviews on my phone. There were only 5, all 5-star. Short, generic reviews. "Great stay. Nice place." One from 3 months ago said, "Comfy, slept like a baby." A cold feeling settled in my gut that wasn't from the gas. I drove to a hotel. The next morning, I did something stupid. I went back. I told myself I needed my suitcase. Really, I needed to see. I used the key from the lockbox. The windows were still open. The hissing had stopped. I walked over to the fireplace. On my knees, I looked at where the hiss had come from. There was a small, flexible copper pipe feeding into the back of the unit. It wasn't connected to a control valve. It was just a pipe feeding a constant, slow stream of unburned gas into a sealed box, venting right into the living room. This wasn't a fault. It was a hookup, a deliberate, secret hookup. I got my bag and got out. I reported everything to Airbnb. They gave me a full refund and a $200 coupon. Martin's listing was suspended pending investigation. I checked a month later. It was back up. New photos, different host name, same townhouse. I think about that review. Slept like a baby. I wonder if the guest before me ever woke up. I called the non-emergency police line. I told the officer everything. The disconnected pipe, the missing batteries, the new listing. He listened. He said, "So you're reporting a faulty appliance?" "And you think the host did it on purpose?" I said, "Yes, I think it's intentional." He was quiet for a minute. "Did you see him tamper with it?" "No." "Were you injured?" "I had a headache. I got out in time." "And the fire department report says the levels were high, but they mitigated it, correct?" "Yes, but..." "Sir," he said, his voice tired, "this is a civil matter, a code violation, maybe. You need to take it up with the rental platform or the city housing authority. We don't have evidence of a crime." I hung up. I felt helpless. I went home from my trip and tried to forget it, but I couldn't. A week later, I got a notification. Someone had left a new review on the old suspended listing for the townhouse. It was a 1-star review. It read, "Place smells weird, felt sick the whole time, would not recommend." My heart started beating hard. I clicked on the reviewer's profile. It was a blank, new account, no picture. I tried to message them through the platform. The message failed to send. Account deactivated. That's when I started digging deeper. I looked up the address in local news archives. Nothing. I searched the owner's name, the one on the original tax records I could find online. Martin wasn't the owner. The owner was an LLC. I couldn't trace it. But I found a forum for Baltimore landlords. I searched the address. One old post from over a year ago popped up. A user asked, "Tenant died in unit from accidental CO poisoning. Liability?" The address in the follow-up comments was blurred, but the description matched. A townhouse, a faulty fireplace. The post had one reply. It said, "Sell the property, LLC it, relist as short-term, no lease, no liability, clean slate." The user who gave that advice had the username mdeveloper. I never found out who Martin really was. I don't know if anyone else got sick. I don't know if anyone else died. All I know is that for someone, that rental wasn't a side hustle. It was a solution, a final, quiet solution for a problem property. And my 1-star review, my 911 call, my police report, they were just minor maintenance, something to be fixed before the next guest checked in, slept like a baby, and never left a review at all.
I booked a cabin near Tahoe for a solo fishing weekend. The host, Gary, messaged me a dozen times before I arrived. "Bring warm socks. The key is under the red rock. I left a little welcome gift for you." The cabin was nice, isolated. The welcome basket was on the kitchen table. It was huge. Homemade jam, fancy crackers, local sausage, a bottle of wine, and a whole loaf of still warm bread. There was a card. It read, "To our special guest, make yourself at home, Gary and Dan." I ate some of the bread and sausage that first night. It was good. An hour later, my stomach felt a little off. I figured I'd eaten too fast. The next morning, I went fishing. When I got back that afternoon, something was different. The blanket on the couch was folded neatly. I'd left it bunched up. My toothpaste tube was squeezed from the middle. I always roll from the bottom. I thought maybe the cleaning crew came through, but the listing said no mid-stay cleans. That evening, Gary texted, "How's the fishing? Enjoying the snacks?" I wrote back, "Good, thanks. Did someone come in to clean today?" He replied instantly, "No, just Dan doing a quick property check. Hope that's okay. He said you weren't there." It wasn't okay, but what could I say? Don't check your property? I felt uneasy. I deadbolted the door that night. The next day, I came back from the lake early. My duffel bag was open on the bed. I always zip it shut. I went to my toiletries kit. My prescription bottle of anxiety meds was there. I opened it. The pill count was low. I'd filled it before the trip. There should have been more.
I heard a car on the gravel driveway. I looked out the window. A pickup truck was parking next to my car. A big man in a flannel shirt got out. He was carrying another basket. He walked right up to the front door. I didn't open it. I called out, "Who is it?" "It's Dan, Gary's husband. Brought you some more goodies." "I'm okay, thanks. You can leave it." "Oh, come on, friend. Let me say hi. Gary said you seemed lonely." My blood went cold. I'd never said anything to Gary about being alone. I'd never mentioned it at all. "I'm busy," I said, my voice firm. "Just open up. I made pie."
I saw the doorknob jiggle. Then I heard a key. The deadbolt I'd thrown stopped it. A moment of silence. Then Dan's voice, still cheerful, came through the door. "You locked it? That's smart. Real smart. Well, the pie's on the step. Enjoy your stay, friend. We'll see you soon." I heard his footsteps on the gravel, then the truck starting and driving away. I didn't move for 10 minutes. I didn't touch the pie. I packed my things in 5 flat minutes. I was shaking. As I threw my duffel in the car, I saw the pie tin on the step. It was cherry. Next to it was a small, empty prescription bottle. Not mine, a different one. The label was peeled off. I drove straight to the police station in the next town over. I told them everything. The missing pills, the key, the lonely comment. They listened. They took the pie and the empty bottle. They called Gary. I heard the deputy's side of the conversation. "He says your husband entered the property without permission." "Uh-huh. A wellness check? With a key? He says items were disturbed." "Okay." He hung up. "Mr. Evans says they were just being hospitable. Dan is a retired nurse. He has a kind heart. He was worried about you being out there alone. He admits he went inside to check on things, but denies touching your medication. Says the bottle you found isn't his." "And the pie?" I asked. "A neighborly gesture. They've never had a complaint before." I was stunned. "So that's it?" The deputy gave me a look. "It's a he said. No evidence of theft, no forced entry. They own the place. You want to file a trespass report, you can, but they had a key. It's a civil dispute." I left. I got a hotel. I checked the Airbnb listing the next day. Gary had left me a review. It was public. It said, "Guest was unstable and paranoid. Accused us of theft with no proof. Called the police on a kindly retired nurse. Would not host again. Do not recommend." Airbnb wouldn't take it down. They said it was a personal experience review. A month later, I got a phishing email. I almost deleted it, but the subject line caught my eye. "You seemed lonely." The body was empty. The sender address was a jumble of letters. I don't know if it was them. I don't eat homemade food from strangers anymore, and I never, ever tell anyone I'm traveling alone. I rented a whole house in a quiet old neighborhood in St. Louis. It was for a week-long work project. The house looked normal from the outside, a little worn but big. The inside was all renovated. New floors, new paint, new appliances. It felt like a flip. The host, Carla, mentioned one rule twice in her instructions. "Do not open the door to the basement. It is locked for your safety. The stairs are unstable." I saw the door. It was in the kitchen, a heavy old wooden door with a big new deadbolt lock. I didn't care about a basement. I had work to do. The first night, I heard a noise. It was a low groan, like wood straining. It came from below. I told myself it was an old house settling. The sound came again around midnight, a long, slow creak. I walked to the kitchen. I put my ear to the basement door. Nothing. I tried the handle. It was locked solid. The next day, I came back from work late. The moment I stepped into the kitchen, I felt it.
The floor wasn't level. There was a slight but definite slope downward toward the basement door. I hadn't noticed it before. I placed a marble from a decorative bowl on the floor. It rolled slowly across the tiles and bumped against the basement door with a soft tap. My stomach tightened. I messaged Carla. "Hey, is there a settling issue with the foundation? The floor seems to slope." She wrote back fast. "All old houses settle. It's completely safe. The renovation was top-notch. Please don't worry." I didn't write back. I got my flashlight. I went outside. The house had those small rectangular basement windows covered in dirt and cobwebs. I crouched down and tried to shine my light through one. I could see a little. Concrete floor, a thick wooden support post in the center. And I could see that the post was not touching the beam it was supposed to hold up. There was a gap, a 2-inch gap. The beam was sagging. I went back inside. The slope felt more obvious now. The groan came again, louder. It wasn't the house settling. It was weight, something bending under pressure. I called Carla. This time I wasn't asking. "There's a major structural problem. The main support post in the basement isn't connected. The floor is sloping. I'm getting a hotel." Her voice turned sharp. "You are not an engineer. Do not diagnose my property. You are violating the rental agreement by snooping. If you leave mid-stay, there is no refund." "I'm not staying in a house that's about to collapse," I said. "It is not collapsing. The basement is off limits. That's the only issue. Stay out of the basement and you're perfectly safe." We argued. She hung up. I packed my laptop bag. As I was leaving, I took one last look at the basement door. Something was different. The deadbolt. It was locked before. Now I could see the bolt was shot, but the metal plate on the door frame, it was splintered. Freshly splintered. Like the frame was pulling away from the wall, making the lock useless. The door was now holding shut only by friction. That's when I heard the sound. A sharp crack, like a thick branch breaking. It came from directly below me. I didn't run. I walked, fast and carefully out the front door. I got in my car and drove to the end of the block. I called 911. I reported a possible structural failure at the address. I watched from my car. A fire truck and a police car arrived. They went to the door. They went inside. A few minutes later, they all came out quickly. They started putting up yellow caution tape. I drove to a hotel. I got a notification from Airbnb that Carla had canceled the rest of my stay and issued a full refund. No message. A week later, back home, my curiosity got me. I looked up the address on the city's public building permits site. I found the permit for Carla's renovation. It was for cosmetic work only. Electrical, flooring, paint. A separate permit for foundation repair and structural reinforcement had been applied for 6 months earlier. It was marked denied. The city inspector's note was attached. Proposed fix insufficient. Major load-bearing compromise identified. Engineer's report required. No engineer's report was ever filed. The cosmetic renovation was completed 2 months after the denial. I never got a review from Carla. The listing disappeared. I sometimes wonder if she just relisted it under a different name, with the same rule, do not open the door to the basement. And I wonder about the next guest, if they'll hear the groans and think it's just an old house settling, as the floor tilts them night by night toward that locked door that isn't locked anymore, just waiting for the final crack. I rented a beach house in the Outer Banks for a week. It was the off-season, cheap and empty. The house was called the Mariner's Rest. It was shabby but right on the sand. The host, Lynn, said the key was in a lockbox. The only thing she asked was to please not engage with the neighbor directly to the north.
He's harmless, but a bit of a lonely talker can waste your whole day. I saw the neighbor the first morning, an old man sitting on his deck in a raincoat, staring at the water. He didn't wave. I didn't either. That night, a storm rolled in. Wind shook the windows. I was watching TV when I heard a knock at the sliding glass door facing the beach. I jumped. A figure in a raincoat was standing on my deck, his face lit by the TV glow. It was the old neighbor. I didn't want to open the door, but he was just standing there in the rain. I cracked it open. The wind screamed. "Your deck chair," he yelled over the noise. "It's going to blow away. Tied it down for you." I saw my cheap plastic chair now lashed to the deck railing with rope. "Oh, thanks." He didn't leave. He stared past me into the house. "You renting from Lynn?" "Yeah, for the week." He nodded, rain dripping off his hood. "She don't come out here much, not since it happened." He turned and looked down the dark beach. "Since what happened?" I asked, against my better judgment. "Tragedy," he said, simple and flat. "Right here. Previous owner. Lost his little girl. She walked right out that door and into the water one night. Never found her. He sold the place right after. Couldn't stand it." A cold feeling that wasn't from the wind went through me. I just wanted him to leave. "That's awful. Thanks for the chair." He looked back at me. His eyes were pale and wet. "I keep an eye on the place, for him. He asked me to. You have a good night now." He walked off my deck and disappeared into the rainy dark.
The next day was clear. I tried to forget about it, but that evening I saw him again. On his deck, standing perfectly still, binoculars to his eyes. He wasn't looking at the water. He was looking at my house. I pulled all the blinds shut. I felt watched. 2 days later, I came back from getting groceries. There was a small, wet bundle on my welcome mat. A child's sneaker. A pink, tiny sneaker, crusted with sand and salt. It was old, decaying. There was a note written on a scrap of paper, the ink runny from moisture. "Found this today. Thought you should have it." I dropped it. I felt sick. I looked over at the neighbor's house. His curtain moved. I called Lynn, the host. I was angry. "Your neighbor is leaving garbage on my doorstep. Creepy stuff. A kid's shoe. He's watching me with binoculars." Lynn sighed. "Oh, him. I'm so sorry. He's stuck in the past. His brother was the previous owner, the one who lost the child. It broke both of them. He's not right in the head anymore. He doesn't mean harm. I'll tell him to stop. He told me he keeps an eye on the place for the brother. Is that true?" A long pause. "The brother, my uncle, he didn't sell the house because of the tragedy. He sold it because he couldn't stand him anymore. The constant watching, the leaving of her things. He said it was like being haunted by a living ghost. I'm sorry. I should have warned you better. Just ignore him." It was too late to ignore. That night, I saw a flashlight beam sweeping across my deck. I peeked through the blind. He was on the beach, shining his light at the foundation of the house, like he was looking for something. The final night of my stay, I couldn't sleep. I got up for water. I froze. The sliding glass door was open, just an inch. The lock was a simple latch. I knew I had locked it. I stood there, listening. The only sound was the ocean. I closed the door and locked it. I pushed a heavy chair in front of it. In the morning, packing to leave, I found it, taped to the inside of the garbage can lid under the sink. A faded photograph, water-stained. A little girl on this very deck, smiling. On the back, in shaky handwriting, "She likes you. She wants you to stay. Don't go." I left right then. I didn't touch anything else. As I was putting my bags in the car, I heard his screen door slam. He walked across the sand toward me. He had no binoculars, no flashlight, just his empty hands. "Leaving?" he asked. "Yeah, time's up." He nodded, looking at the house. "She gets lonely. The new people never stay long. Lynn rents it to anyone." I got in my car. He put a hand on my driver's side window. I didn't roll it down. His voice was muffled but clear. "You can tell her dad she's still here. I'm still watching. He doesn't call anymore." I drove away. I reported it all to Airbnb. They gave me a partial refund for the disturbance. Lynn's listing is still active. The description now says, "Quiet, private beach retreat." I sometimes check the reviews. Every few months, a new one pops up. "Beautiful location, but felt uneasy. Neighbor is a bit odd." One said, "Found a weird doll on the beach, seemed aimed at the house." And every single time, Lynn, the host, replies with the same message. "Thank you for your feedback. The neighbor is a harmless local widower. We apologize if he was overly friendly." I don't think he's harmless. And I don't think he's looking for a lost long child. I think he's keeping one. And he uses that house and the strangers who stay in it to feed a story that keeps her alive for him. Every new guest is a new witness, a new participant in his ritual. We aren't renters, we're an audience. And he needs us to believe so he can keep watching. I needed a cheap place in Austin for a month between leases. I found a room in a downtown condo. The listing said, "Private room, shared common space with one other long-term guest. Quiet professional." The other guest was named Sam. He was there when I moved in. He seemed normal, late 20s, quiet, worked in IT. He helped me carry a box up the stairs. The first week was fine. We said hey in the kitchen, kept to ourselves. The first weird thing was the coffee. I make my coffee a specific way. 2 scoops, a pinch of salt in the grounds. On day 8, I came out to find Sam already making a pot. I watched him scoop the grounds. Then he reached into the salt shaker and put a tiny pinch into the filter. "Hey," I said, "you put salt in your coffee too?" He looked startled, then smiled. "Oh, yeah, cuts the bitterness, learned it online." It was a small thing, but I'd never met anyone else who did that. It felt like being copied. Then it was the brand of toothpaste. I use a specific green kind from the health store. It's not common. A new tube appeared on the bathroom sink next to Sam's blue one. Same green kind, half used like he'd had it a while. I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he always used it. The next weekend, I went out for a run. When I came back, Sam was on the couch. He was wearing gym shorts and a gray t-shirt, exactly what I was wearing. Same brand. I'd never seen him in that before. "Nice run?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, heading to my room. I closed the door and leaned against it. My heart was beating fast. This was too many coincidences. I started paying close attention. I left a book face down on the living room table, open to page 45. The next day, it was in the same place, but now open to page 46. I listened to a specific, obscure podcast episode while cooking dinner. The following evening, Sam was in his room. I heard the faint audio of the same episode through his door. He was mirroring me, step by step. I confronted him. It wasn't dramatic. I just asked in the kitchen, "Sam, man, are you Copying my stuff? The coffee, the clothes, the podcast? He looked genuinely confused. What? No, why would I do that? We just have similar tastes, I guess. He laughed, but it was thin. That's kind of paranoid, dude. I felt stupid. Maybe it was in my head. A few days later, I had a video call with my sister. I took it in my room. I mentioned, just in passing, that I had a fear of choking, that I always cut my food small. It was a dumb, personal thing I never told anyone. That night, Sam cooked dinner. He called me to the kitchen. Made extra steak, he said. It was on my plate, already cut. Not just cut, diced, into tiny, uniform cubes like for a toddler. I stared at it. He smiled. Easier to eat that way, right? I didn't eat it. I went to my room and locked the door. I knew then it wasn't paranoia. He was listening. He was always listening. I decided to move out. I told the host, an absentee owner, that I had a family emergency. I found a new place. I told Sam I was leaving 2 days before the end of the month. Sorry, man, something came up. Okay, he said. He seemed disappointed. We got along so well. On my last day, I was packing the final boxes. Sam was out, or so I thought. I was in the bathroom getting my toiletries. I saw his green toothpaste tube in the trash, empty. Next to it, in the cabinet, was a new tube, the blue brand he used to use. It was like he was shedding my habits because I was leaving. I finished packing. I had one last box by the front door. I realized I'd left my favorite water bottle in the kitchen. I went back to get it. Sam was standing at the kitchen counter, his back to me. He hadn't heard me come in. He was focused on something. He had my utility bill, which had come in the mail that day, open on the counter. Next to it, he was carefully filling out a form on his laptop, a form for a driver's license renewal. He was typing in my name, my address. The bill was his proof of residency. He must have felt me staring. He slowly turned around. He didn't look startled this time. He just looked blank. Then he smiled, his thin smile. "Leaving so soon?" he said. His voice was calm. I didn't answer. I grabbed my water bottle. I walked out, got my last box, and left. I didn't look back. I called the host from my car. I told him the other guest had stolen my mail and was attempting identity fraud. The host sounded annoyed. "This is a personal dispute between tenants. I'll speak to him." I filed a police report. They took a statement. They said they'd look into it. I never heard back. A month later, I got a notification that someone had logged into my streaming account from an IP address in Austin. I changed all my passwords. I put a fraud alert on my credit. 6 months after that, an old coworker texted me. "Hey, ran into a guy at a conference who said he knew you. Sam Wilson? He knew a lot about you. It was kind of weird." I asked what he looked like. The description matched. "What did he say?" I texted back. "He talked about your running routine, your taste in music, said you were close. He asked for my number, said you'd want him to have it to plan a reunion. I didn't give it to him." My blood ran cold. He wasn't just copying me. He was trying to become me. And when I left, I didn't end it. I just left a piece of myself behind, my name, my details, my habits, and he was still wearing them, using them to get closer to the people in my life. I moved cities for a new job. I got a P.O. box. I'm careful about what I say aloud, even when I'm alone. Because the worst part isn't the theft. It's the knowing that for someone out there, my life wasn't my life. It was a template. And he's still out there, practicing, using what he learned from me, getting better at being someone else before he finds another roommate, another template, another way in. If you liked the story, subscribe and like it, and also write a comment about what topic you would like to hear about.